Thank you for your welcome. So now let's see who we have in the house tonight. So if you're an OUSD student, let's make some noise. If you're a parent, let's make some noise.
Thank you for your welcome.
And also if you're a voter, let's make some noise. Okay, last but not least, if you care about educational justice, make some noise.
Love that energy. Tonight we will have the opportunity to meet our school board candidates running for District 2, 4, and 6. Before we move any further in our program tonight, if you're feeling social tonight and want to post on our social media, please tag us and you can find our handles somewhere in this room and make sure to use the hashtag vote to be heard.
As a student, it matters who represents us because schools in Oakland should be a safe and empowering place for our students. In this current political movement, as students of color are criminalized and pushed out of public schools, families are also getting torn apart by deportations, and people of color are targeted in blatant racist attacks. At the same time, communities in Oakland are being displaced by rising rents and growing lack of access to affordable housing. Gentrification is accelerating as communities and families, including educators, are being pushed out of Oakland and even out of California altogether. As educators leave our campus, our students lose the caring adults on campus that believe in them and help them succeed.
That is why we are here today. School board members have the power to decide what schools need and how funding is spent, how parents and students are engaged in decisions, what students learn, and what becomes the priorities for the next 4 years. So, what's your vision for OUSD schools and students? What do you want to see from your school board members? Your vote has the power to bring us closer to your vision. Your ability to turn out others to vote will make your vision a reality.
If you have yet to register to vote on November 8th, 2022, make sure to fill out a registration form, which are outside of those doors. So now, let's welcome our school board candidates, and thank you, school board candidates, for making a priority during your busy day. We appreciate you for showing your accountability to us Oakland students. Even though we are not yet to vote this election as promised, we are excited that you are here with us today. Alrighty, now let's get this started.
All right. So, before we jump into our conversation with the candidates, I want to set some ground rules for everyone. Californians for Justice, APEL, and Oakland Kids First are 501c3 nonprofit organizations. As nonprofits, we neither oppose nor support any candidate. The purpose of this event is to educate voters and community members about the importance of the election and to learn a bit more about the candidates and the issues so that you can make an informed decision on who to vote for. Here are the guidelines for our candidates. Each of you will be asked the same question and will only have 1 minute and 30 seconds to respond.
What's up, Oakland? My name is Pacolia Manigo. I am a mother of 3 students, one who has graduated from Skyline High School and 2 Spanish language learners here at Manzanita Seed and Melrose Leadership Academy. I'm also the executive director of a nonprofit called Bay Area Parent Leadership Action Network. I am a parent organizer. I'm a policy advocate. And I started this work when I was in middle school. So I'm a youth organizer that never gave up on the youth movement. I'm wearing a shirt today from the campaign that we launched over 10 years ago to bring about college and career readiness. And the demands in this campaign are still the things that I'm fighting for. I have decided to run for school board because after organizing Black students, after organizing students of color across this district to lift up your voice and to be empowered and to say, hey, we know the solutions for what is necessary in our schools, our board didn't listen to us. Our community has a clear vision, and I'm running to make sure that we implement that vision so that we can actually have a board that works in partnership with our district, not just on our behalf. In addition to that, I'm also running because we have an amazing opportunity right now in Oakland to create a new vision for our whole
5
city.
seconds. Sorry.
And I just want to be able to be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Resnick, and I'm running for the school board in District 4. I come to this as a teacher in OUSD for many years at Community Day School and Edna Brewer Middle School, and now as an OUSD parent to 2 students, a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. When I was a teacher in our district, I saw the promise of so many students and families who had been moved through our school system without access to an education that truly set them up for a life of choice and opportunity. At Community Day School, I worked with so many incredible high school students who moved through our schools without access to things like electives or science teachers in elementary school or additional reading or math coaches that really were there to help them navigate school so they could feel successful and so they could feel confident. I deeply know that our schools could be doing so much better for every single child across our city and not just in certain neighborhoods or certain pockets. So I look forward to working with all of you, the students that actually brought me to this work. For the last 15 years, I've been working with Title I urban school districts across the state of California to recognize what we can do differently in the name of every child.
5
Thank you.
seconds. Thank you.
Let's see if great. Thank you for having us here today. It's always great to be here at Fremont, and thank you for all the groups for putting this together, especially on a really short timeline. My name is Mike Hutchinson. I'm a proud graduate of Oakland Public Schools. Born and raised in Oakland, I attended Crocker Highlands, McChesney Junior High, which is now called Edna Brewer, Oakland High, and graduated from Skyline. I spent over 20 years working directly with youth here in Oakland and across the East Bay until 2012, when the 2 schools I had worked at for 10 years, Santa Fe Elementary and Maxwell Park Elementary, were closed. Going through that process and that trauma of that year of closures, I realized that I had to change the focus of my work, and from there I became a public education advocate and organizer. I'm currently the sitting school board director in District 5. But the family house that I've lived in for over 40 years was restricted in this last round of redistricting. So now I'm running to represent my new district, District 4. And again, I'm trying to push through with the platform that we ran on in 2020, which was primarily to stop school closures and the financial mismanagement within OUSD, and to finally fulfill the promise of a quality public school in every neighborhood. We've made a lot of progress, but we still have a lot of work to do. Hopefully together we can finally build the kind of schools we want to see across Oakland, like we've been.
Thank you, candidates, for your introductions. Now we will begin the questions. First one. Measure QQ was passed by Oakland voters in 2020 with the belief that 16 and 17-year-olds are prepared to vote for their school board leaders, but has yet to be implemented. Young people also partnered with OUSD to develop the Civic Engagement Resolution. How will you center and respect youth voice as a board member, and how will you ensure that OUSD takes the necessary steps to prepare 16 and 17-year-olds to be civically engaged and informed voters? We'll start with Nick Resnick.
Hello. So when I was a teacher, one of the main things that I centered my classroom on was student voice and student agency. I worked closely at our school to center our students to ensure that they were making decisions that they actually saw surfacing in our cafeteria, on our grounds, in our classrooms, in the bathrooms, in the hallway. We worked together to create values, a mission, and a culture that actually allowed students to be the leaders in our school and for adults to step back and allow them to thrive. I've observed the process of the Measure QQ over the last year, and it has been incredible to see what youth can do when they knock on doors and they speak before city council, they speak before our school board. And I am so sorry to all of the students here and all of you that have worked on that process. I was looking forward to working alongside some of my previous students and their siblings and their cousins who thought they were going to have the opportunity for the first time in their life to vote, and not just vote at the federal level or the state level, but for something that mattered so deeply to them. So I make a commitment to you today that I would do everything in my power to make sure in the next election cycle.
Thank you. Now let's move on to Bacolia Manigo.
Can you hear me? Okay. So, it is a crime that the Alameda County Registrar stopped our implementation of Measure QQ. But I know that as young folks and as parents, we're going to not let that be the barrier to the implementation. So a couple of things. One, I think that continuing to invest in all city council, youth commission, and other forms of student government in the high schools is going to be the best route for making sure that we continue to implement meaningful student engagement standards here in OUSD. I'm also really depending upon this Youth Vote Coalition to continue to do your student organizing in your high schools and to help us really identify the challenges from a youth perspective so that that can be coming up to the board and helping us to really center our policies moving forward around how we do the best work around youth engagement and student engagement. The other thing that I want to emphasize is that I really want to see young folks also coming to board meetings. And I know that that can be a challenge, but I want to see you all coming and standing with your student directors, especially during their student reports, and making sure that your student directors are in communication with you all. It would be ideal that we could get student directors to have an actual county vote on the board, and I think that we need to launch that statewide campaign to change the law so that we can ensure that students not only have the right to vote at 16 and 17, but that they also can vote on the school board.
Thank you, Bacolia. Now let's pass the mic to Mike Hutchinson.
Thank you. I remember when I first registered to vote, when I first turned 18, my social studies teacher at Skyline High School used to keep voter registration forms in his desk. And when everyone turned 18, he put one in our hands. That's when I first registered to vote, and I voted in every election since I was 18, largely because of that. I think it's really important that we bring back the culture of voting and civic engagement, especially in our high schools and with our youth. It's up to us. If we don't do this, nobody's gonna come and save us. So I need civically engaged youth. You all need to be able to take over from us right now and lead the way like it's always been. And yes, the school board could change our board bylaws at any point by a vote of the school board and have student directors' votes counted for the official record. We don't need to change state law. We just need to have the will of the school board to do that. But I want to be really explicit when I'm talking about honoring student voice. I've been watching over the last 5 years. I saw thousands of students come out to protest the school closures plan. Nobody listened to your voice then. I saw thousands of students come out in the name of Black Lives Matter, in the name of police-free schools, that helped us get the George Floyd resolution passed. So we need to honor and harness the energy that already exists. And if we don't listen, you make us listen.
Thank you all candidates for answering the first question. Our second question: with the ongoing COVID-19 epidemic and recent incidents of violence that have transpired in Oakland schools, health and safety is an ongoing priority for students. The mental health resolution was passed in 2021 and the George Floyd resolution was passed in 2020. Both were designed with our safety and support in mind. However, there seems to be a disconnect between resolutions passing and being implemented effectively. How will you ensure that these resolutions are implemented with fidelity so that students on campus feel safe and supported?
Testing. Okay. So I think it's important to first read resolutions that have been passed by the board. You all asked about two very specific resolutions. One was around mental health supports and credit recovery, and the other was a George Floyd resolution. So I'll try to take them both in the 90 seconds. On the mental health supports, it's a very simple thing. Did the district allocate $9 million to the demands in the resolution? Yes or no? The answer is no. And not only did they not allocate them, they did not ensure that the staff that were allocated were hired. They did not invest in peer-to-peer mentoring, which is a big part of what is going to help our schools stabilize at the high school level. They did not invest in credit recovery. And I can go on and on and on. So the first thing I'll commit to you is to make our staff do an update on the implementation of the resolution and also track the resources that were invested and where we are, because we know this district has a very good track record of budgeting for positions that never get hired and then those monies disappear. On a George Floyd resolution, I think that we have to talk about the fact that BOP is sitting right here and has been demanding a community developed plan for improving our school climate and has yet to see any level of investment, including the millions of dollars that came from closing our police department. So again, it's about making sure we're tracking our money and our resources.
Thank you, Picolia. Let's pass the mic to Mike Hutchinson.
Thank you. Thank you. There's no way I can do a question about safety justice in 90 seconds, but I'm gonna try to touch on a couple of items. When it comes to the restorative restart that was approved for last school year, which included the mental health supports and the credit recovery, those positions were never hired, and it is a huge problem. The one silver lining to that is the money hasn't disappeared. The money rolled over into this year, and it is up to us to make sure that we are directing those dollars where they were originally intended. But during the pandemic, we actually did a fairly good job as a school district. I'm proud to have authored the resolution that brought weekly COVID testing to every school site. I'm proud of the fact that Fremont High hosted a vaccination center that gave out 25,000 plus vaccinations to the community. These were huge steps forward that we were able to do, so much so that OUSD did more COVID testing than any other district in California besides LA. Now, when we're talking about a spike in gun violence, I grew up in the most violent years in Oakland's history. This climate of fear is not okay, and we need all hands on deck to address this. But it is not up to the school districts alone to solve a problem of people jumping out of their cars and shooting up our schools, or calling in a gun threat so the school is canceled for a day. So I need your help, and we all have to be proactive before this spike gets out of control.
Thank you, Mike. Let's pass the mic to Nick Resnick.
One of the main jobs as a school board member would be to ensure that when policies are passed, we are being held accountable for the implementation. And not just at some school sites or school sites where parents come to the school board meetings and comment, but we are accountable for every single site, and right now that would be 84 across our district. Mental health is a problem right now, and our students deserve the money that was allocated so they can have therapists and counselors and additional culture keepers and community partners. I have been working with different counselors at school sites across District 4 to better understand the services being provided for our children. And what I have heard is that it's based on the principal, could be based on the PTO, or it could be based on if they have additional money allocated. And that is not what the policy indicated or the money that was allocated to make this happen. Additionally, thinking about disciplinary practices and the George Floyd resolution, that is something, again, that we need a committee structure on the board level. So there is an agenda item every single meeting that allows us to speak about the policies that are implementing you that we have already passed. So I look forward to holding.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, all candidates, for your thoughts, your responses. Moving on to the next question. Students of color make up the majority of OUSD, and yet despite recent policies, we don't feel centered in district curriculum or equitably resourced. For example, ethnic studies has yet to be implemented across the district. Similarly, the Reparations for Black Students resolution seeks to address many of the issues facing Black students and families, but OUSD has yet to put many elements of that resolution into motion. What will you do to ensure these policies and resolutions that center students of color in OUSD are a top priority?
Thank you. So this is the struggle that we're engaged in. Structural racism exists in OUSD just like it does all across this country. And I think we need to be real explicit and real careful when we're talking about these subjects. My great-great-great-grandfather was born enslaved, fought in the Civil War, and earned his freedom, which it should have never been taken away from him in the first place. His mother was born in Africa and was brought to this country when importing slaves had already been made illegal. And his father was his master. This is the struggle we've been engaged in, but we have to be real about how many steps we've actually taken forward as a community. We're a sanctuary district. We passed reparations for Black students, which was historic in this country. And now our job is to make these policies, to make these words on paper relevant throughout the district and in our lives. We are so much farther ahead than most other cities could ever dream of being. I'm proud to have grown up in the shadow of the Black Panthers. I honor that legacy, and that's the struggle that we're all involved with. My parents met in Mississippi working at a freedom school in the 60s. My mom marched Selma to Montgomery and faced the police dogs. I'm a Black student that graduated from this district, just like my brother, and I have 2 young nieces who are in this district still. This is our work going forward.
Thank you, Mike. Let's pass the mic to Nick Resnick.
So I very deeply believe that none of our students can grow up feeling confident and empowered with who they are if we're not talking about their identities and their histories in every single one of our classrooms. As a trans and queer identified person, I know what it feels like to be surrounded by people who are not talking about you, not talking about your history, not talking about the power that has come when your community has organized on your behalf to give you the rights that we all have today. Every day, I work with school districts across the country that are interested in bringing more diverse curriculum into their schools and into the hands of their children, so those children have the opportunity to move through life recognizing that their history is powerful and that history has contributed to our country and has contributed to this world. As a school board member, I promise to bring that lens with me to all policy decisions and budgetary decisions to ensure that we are centering students' diverse perspectives in everything that we do and honoring the diversity that each one of you brings to the classroom.
Thank you, Nick. Let's pass the mic to Bacolia Mango.
So our district adopted a literacy curriculum that had no students of color at all mentioned in it. That was the current board's way of implementing ethnic studies. We also cut the department that develops curriculum in our district. That was our district's way of implementing ethnic studies. And when you don't understand the budget and you don't follow dollars, you can sit up here and make a lot of promises to you, and I'm not going to do that. What I will do is say we definitely need to invest, and as a chair of the Black Students and Families Task Force and a member of the Safety Design Redesign team, what we have been is creating very practical solutions around how we are going to get schools what they need, including libraries in our classrooms, having librarians in our schools, and being able to circumvent the fact that curriculum for ethnic studies is not developed and that we have to do that on our own. The other thing is that on the implementation of the reparations for Black students, We need money, straight up. And this is what this district has failed to do. As the task force chair, not only am I fighting to make sure that the task force exists, but I'm also fighting to make sure that the district puts the funds that it claimed it was going to put into the Thriving Fund for us. That has not happened yet. So those are the two priorities that I am focused on, and I hope that you all will join me as this district rushes to pass a budget.
Thank you, candidates. This is our last question. OUSD has struggled with its finances for many years. We're excited that increased funding for community schools is coming from the governor, but we know structural issues continue with the OUSD's budget. What do you feel are the biggest challenges with OUSD's budget, and how will you engage students, families, and educators to ensure that their voices and experiences inform budgetary decisions? Let us start with Mike Hutchinson.
Thank you. So I'm here to actually tell you that OUSD is not in financial crisis. And because of a couple of factors over the last 2 years, again, we are not in financial crisis. So between electing some new school board directors like myself in 2020, and I've served now on the Budget and Finance Committee for my 2 years on the school board, and we hired a new chief business officer who has rebuilt the financial team. And we have received a historic increase in funding from the state during the pandemic, and now this year from the state surplus. So we again ended last year with a budget surplus, and we're projecting budget surpluses for our next 2 years. We have healthy reserves with over $50 million in our reserve. And so again, we're not in financial crisis. That doesn't mean we necessarily have enough money to fund everything we would want to fund, but we have turned the corner on this, so much so that we will be repaying the rest of the state loan that we owe from 2003 next year in 2023, which will allow us to finally leave state receivership and regain full local control. That's the kind of movement we've been able to make over the last 2 years. And again, this shows how elections have consequences. And if we vote in the right school board directors who have the experience and the policy, along with the connection to the community, we can move this district further and further forward like we all want to see it do.
Thank you, Mike. Let's pass the mic to Bacolia Manigo.
Thank you. So yes, the district has in the past had struggles with finances, but we are, as Director Hutchinson said, not there anymore. What we are, though, in a place of not seeing our money get to the classroom. We are in a place of not seeing our dollars get down to school sites. And we have been lied to and told that school closures would have budgetary savings, and that was absolutely not true. We've lost more money by closing schools, of which 19 out of 23 have been majority Black schools. So we must rescind the school closures first to rebuild trust with our community, number one. And number two, we have to independent audit or have every department audit and every school budget audited to really be able to understand what we spend our dollars on. And it doesn't stop there. We also have to look at how we leverage our city funding, our county funding, and our state funding. I sit on the Oakland Fund for Children and Youth Policy Oversight. We had $35 million in requests for children and youth services in Oakland, but we only had $16 million that we could allocate. There were programs in OUSD we couldn't fund. There were programs in our community we couldn't fund. And yet we are sitting in a district budget of $800 million with positions that have not been hired. There are services that could be existing in our communities if we work together across OUSD, the city, and the county. So we have to do that.
Thank you, Bacolia. Let's pass the mic to Nick Resnick.
So Oakland is known within the budget, if you look at the different line items, to invest in a number of different things. And when you invest in a number of different things, you have to spend money on the program, you have to spend money on staff, and you have to spend money on central office. And so what I want to do is make sure that every decision we are making as a school board and every budgetary item that we approve, we are informing the community how that is going to look for children in classrooms. Not every dollar spent is going to reach every school, and parents and the community should understand that and be able to advocate for their site, for their community. Another thing that I'd want to note is that we have one of the most rich districts, the biggest 50 districts in the state of California. We are the third in terms of how much revenue we have, but we pay our teachers the least. In order for us to have a district that is serving our students, we need to retain our teachers, which means we need to compensate them more. In order to do that, we're going to have to say no to some other things. And I look forward to working with community to figure out how we can do that together.
Thank you all candidates. Thank you for your responses and your thoughts. Please give it up for the candidates. If you have any questions for them, please check in with them after we close. I will now pass it back to our wonderful MCs.
How are folks doing? I hope you're all ready to go out and vote. And then can we get another round of applause for our candidates? Thank you. So elections are about 2 weeks away on Tuesday, November 8th. Folks will also be voting for the mayor and city council members too. I'm 17 years old, which means I can't vote yet, so I'm asking you to vote. Most students cannot vote because they're not 18, they're undocumented, and the registrar failed us by not developing a voting plan for us. So our voices are not heard in the polling booth through our vote, but they will be heard through each of you who can vote.
Okay, thank you, Mira, for saying that. And then I also want to take the time to talk about a resource from the youth for this election and share about important measure that'll be on the ballot. Students are experts of our own experiences. Oakland Unified School District, OUSD, must center our voices in its decision-making processes. Our student justice platform outlines demands from over 1,400 student surveys from across the district, and we demand OUSD board directors to implement these priorities. Priority number 1, access to health and wellness. OUSD must provide resources and curriculums to support all students' mental health and physical wellness in and out of the classroom. Priority 2, community-centered schools. OUSD must cultivate environments rooted in student leadership, experience-based learning, and belonging to create safety for all students. Priority number 3, essential life skills. OUSD must provide all students with the necessary skills and resources to successfully navigate life beyond school. And as you also, thank you. And also you may have heard in one of the questions, we passed Measure QQ in 2020 with 67% of the vote. 16 and 17-year-olds should be voting in this upcoming election. However, the registrar failed to develop a plan to accommodate our votes. We're excited that you're all here tonight to present you with what matters most to us. We ask you to vote with our priorities at heart. In addition, Measure H, an important measure that will be on the ballot to pay attention to this election season, is Measure H, adopted by Oakland voters in 2014 as Measure N. The College and Career for All Initiative, CCFA, provides local Oakland public school students with a comprehensive approach to education that integrates challenging academics with career-based learning and real-world work experiences. You can learn more at supportoaklandstudents.com.
We now want to take some time for the community to ask questions to specific candidates or districts. If questions are open to all candidates, you're welcome to respond, but not everyone will be required due to the time, so we will allow 2 people from the crowd to ask questions. So does anyone have a question for our candidates or for a certain district? Don't be shy. They don't bite. I see some people talking. I know y'all have questions.
Any
Come on.
students?
These are people y'all gonna vote for. And even students, we don't have a voice to vote. So, what are some questions to learn more information about these candidates?
Yes.
I'm coming.
Hi, my question is specifically for the District 4 candidates, and my question is about the current school closures. So, when you come into office, what will you do about the current schools that are closing, and what will you do to fight to keep some of our schools open?
Oh, my mic's. Oh, it's back on. Anybody from District 4?
Okay. So I'll jump in real quick. So I am strongly opposed to school closures and this current school closure plan. I fought against it all while it was being formed and voted on. I'm really happy that because of our organizing going into that vote, that the plan was scaled back and backloaded to this year. That was done intentionally to give the new school board an opportunity to rescind these school closures. That will be the first thing that I do in January is work to rescind these school closures, but that's not enough. We need to turn this school closure list into a school redesign list because we can't ignore the fact that these schools have not been doing well enough. And so what we need to do is not close them to improve them, but we actually need to redesign them and fully resource them going forward with these new dollars that are coming into the district.
Thank you, Mike Hutchison. Would anyone else from District 4 like to share?
Thank you for asking this question. So my goal to get on the board would be to better understand why the use of the equity rubric was not used in the creation of the school closure list and the reasons why those schools were selected. So right now, in the seat I sit in as a parent and a community member, I am unsure, like all of you, why those were selected. Was it financial reasons? Was it due to ensuring more special education students had access to campuses close to where they live? There's a number of different things that have been out there, but it's not clear to me, and it's not clear to a number of the parents and community members on the why. So moving into the future, I would make sure that any vote that came before us, we thought through each decision with an equity lens. What I do believe is that we are not serving our children right now in every school across our district, and it is our responsibility as a board holding our superintendent accountable to dramatically change the outcomes for our most marginalized students.
Thank you, Nick.
So I want to be really clear that the reparations for Black students policy explicitly asks for equity impact analysis and asks for 1 year of community engagement, and the board exempted themselves from that. So we are not disillusioned about why these closures are happening. We don't need any more analysis done. They had that opportunity. What we need is 2 board members to introduce a resolution in December and for the new board to vote to rescind closures in January. What we also need is a guarantee that we will not do that anymore in our district because it has not in 23 years saved any money. So we're going to close schools. You're going to have to come up with a much better excuse than balancing the budget because that's not what it's about. It's about causing harm, and we need to be very explicitly clear that when you have 19 schools, where the majority of which are the most vulnerable students in our district, exactly what is going on. This is structural racism in play, and we cannot, in 2022, dismiss it as anything else. But what we do need to do as a board is understand how our practices moving forward can be anti-racist. What we do as a board is ensure that when we do our budgets, that we are investing in our most vulnerable students because guess what? We get the most money for them. Right? So that's what this is about, making sure our dollars that we fought for at the state level come to us.
Thank you, and thank you, candidates, and thank you to our community. And I also want to give a shout out to Andres for translating. He stayed here the whole time, so shout out to him. But also, shout out to Fremont for allowing us to be able to come into their space today. So thank you. Yes, even though I'm a Wildcat, go Tigers today. All right, so before you leave tonight, make sure you register to vote. We have a voter registration table in the back, so you are able to fill out yours. And feel free to take some for your family and friends who are able to vote. Also, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Oakland Youth Vote.